Vice President Kamala Harris said Wednesday that she believes that Donald Trump is a fascist after his longest-serving chief of staff said the former president praised Adolf Hitler while in office and put personal loyalty above the Constitution. Harris seized on comments by former Chief of Staff John Kelly, a retired Marine Corps general, about his former boss in interviews with the New York Times and The Atlantic published Tuesday warning that the Republican nominee meets the definition of a fascist and that while in office he suggested that the Nazi leader did some good things. Speaking at a CNN town hall, Harris said they offer a window into who the former president really is and the kind of commander-in-chief he would be. When asked if she believed that Trump is a fascist, Harris replied twice, "Yes, I do." Later, she brought it up herself, saying Trump would, if elected again, be a president who admires dictators and is a fascist. The Democratic presidential nominee said Kelly's comments, less than 2 weeks before voters will decide whether to send Trump back to the Oval Office, were a 911 call to the American people by the former chief of staff. They were quickly seized by Harris as part of her closing message to voters as she works to sharpen the choice at the ballot box for Americans. "I believe Donald Trump is a danger to the well-being and security of the United States of America," she said, saying the American people deserve a president who maintains certain standards, which include certainly not comparing oneself, in a clearly admiring way, to Hitler. She added that if re-elected, Trump would no longer be tempered by people who would restrain him from his worst impulses. Earlier Wednesday, Harris repeated her increasingly dire warnings about Trump's mental fitness and his intentions for the presidency. "This is a window into who Donald Trump really is, from the people who know him best, from the people who have worked with him side by side in the Oval Office and in the Situation Room," Harris told reporters outside the vice president's residence in Washington. The comments from Kelly, the retired Marine general who worked for Trump in the White House from 2017 to 2019, built on past warnings from former top Trump officials as the election enters its final 2 weeks. Kelly has long been critical of Trump and previously accused him of calling veterans killed in combat suckers and losers. His new warnings emerged as Trump seeks a second term, vowing to dramatically expand his use of the military at home and suggesting he would use force to go after Americans he considers enemies from within. He commented more than once that, Hitler did some good things too, Kelly recalled to the Times. Kelly said he would usually quash the conversation by saying nothing Hitler did, you could argue, was good, but Trump would occasionally bring up the topic again. In his interview with The Atlantic, Kelly recalled that when Trump raised the idea of needing German generals, Kelly would ask if he meant Bismarck's generals, referring to Otto von Bismarck, the chancellor who oversaw the unification of Germany. "Surely you can't mean Hitler's generals," Kelly recalled asking Trump. To which the former president responded, Yeah, Hitler's generals." Trump said on his Truth social media platform that Kelly had made up a story and went on to heap insults on his former chief of staff, including that Kelly's toughness morphed into weakness. Trump's campaign also denied the accounts. Campaign spokesman Stephen Chung said Kelly had becloned himself with these debunked stories he has fabricated and, after Harris's statement, accused the Democratic candidate of sharing outright lies and falsehoods. Chris Sununu, New Hampshire's Republican governor and one-time Trump critic, said Kelly's comments did not change his plans to vote for the former president. "Look, we've heard a lot of extreme things about Donald Trump from Donald Trump. It's really par for the course," the governor told CNN. "Unfortunately, with a guy like that, it's kind of baked into the vote at this point." Some of the former president's supporters in swing states responded to Kelly's comments with a shrug. Trump did his 4 years, and we were in great shape. Kelly didn't have anything good to say about Trump. He ought to have his butt kicked, said Jim Littner, a longtime advocate for veterans in Nevada who served in the Army in Vietnam and co-founded the nonprofit Veterans Transition Resource Center. Harris said Wednesday that Trump admired Hitler's generals because he does not want a military that is loyal to the United States Constitution. He wants a military that is loyal to him. He wants a military who will be loyal to him personally. Polls show the race is tight in swing states, and both Trump and Harris are crisscrossing the country, making their final pitches to the sliver of undecided voters. Harris's campaign has spent considerable time reaching out to independent voters, using the support of longtime Republicans such as former Representative Liz Cheney and comments like Kelly's to urge past Trump voters to reject his candidacy in November. Harris's campaign held a call with reporters Tuesday to elevate the voices of retired military officials who highlighted how many of the officials who worked with Trump now oppose his campaign. People that know him best are most opposed to him, his presidency, said retired Army Brig General Steve Anderson. Anderson said he wished Kelly would fully back Harris over Trump, something he has yet to do. But retired Army Reserve Colonel Kevin Carroll, a former senior counselor to Kelly, said Wednesday that the former top Trump official would rather chew broken glass than vote for Donald Trump. Before serving as Trump's chief of staff, Kelly worked as the former president's Secretary of Homeland Security, where he oversaw Trump's attempts to build a wall along the U.S.-Mexico border. Kelly was also at the forefront of the administration's crackdown in immigration policy that led to the separation of thousands of immigrant parents and their children along the southern border. Those actions made him a villain to many on the left, including Harris. After Kelly left the Trump administration and joined the board of a company operating the nation's largest detention center for unaccompanied migrant children, Harris wrote during her 2019 run for president that he was the architect of the administration's cruel child separation policy. Now he will profit off the separation of families. It's unethical. We are better than this. When she was in Miami for a primary debate in June 2019, Harris was also one of a dozen Democratic presidential candidates who visited the detention center south of the city and protested against the administration's harsh treatment of young migrants. In his interview with The Times, Kelly also said Trump met the definition of a fascist. After reading the definition aloud, including that fascism was a far-right authoritarian, ultranationalist political ideology and movement characterized by a dictatorial leader, Kelly concluded Trump certainly falls into the general definition of fascist, for sure. Kelly added that Trump often fumed at any attempt to constrain his power, and that he would love to be a dictator. He certainly prefers the dictator approach to government, Kelly told The Times, adding later, "I think he'd love to be just like he was in business. He could tell people to do things and they would do it, and not really bother too much about what the legalities were and whatnot." Kelly is not the first former top Trump administration official to cast the former president as a threat. Retired Army General Mark A. Milley, who served as Trump's chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, told Bob Woodward in his recent book War that Trump was fascist to the core and the most dangerous person to this country. And retired General Jim Mattis, who worked as Secretary of Defense under Trump, reportedly later told Woodward that he agreed with Milley's assessment. Throughout Trump's political rise, the businessman-turned-politician benefited from the support of military veterans. AP Votecast found that about 6 in 10 military veterans said they voted for Trump in 2020, as did just over half of those with a veteran in the household. Among voters in this year's South Carolina Republican primary, AP VoteCast found that close to two-thirds of military veterans and people in veteran households voted for Trump over former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley, Trump's toughest opponent in the 2024 Republican primary.